this college football season starting Saturday is amazing to say. I'm gonna go over the biggest game of each week, or some weeks I put multiple because I couldn't choose. But yeah, same concept. Week 0, there's two games that are not FCS related, so it's Florida State, Georgia Tech, or SMU Nevada, and I am very excited to see the SMU offense, see how SMU plays because they can be, they're my at least my sleeper to just win the ACC. But in Dublin, some weird shit happens in Dublin not all the time because they play once a year. Usually some weird shit happens when a team plays in Dublin. This is Georgia Tech, who's a sneaky good team that last year, and then you have Florida State, who lost a lot of talent, and the gap has closed between them. And on international soil, who knows what can happen? Week 1, there's a lot of good games. Week 1, of course, it's Week 1. There's all these big non-conference games. Week 1 of the season, I'm gonna go Notre Dame, Texas A&M. It's a top 10 at a conference game team going to Texas A&M, one of the best environments in college football, and we get to see what Texas A&M is immediately under Mike Elko. How his obviously a game against Notre Dame is not going to judge how an entire coach's era goes, but how this team is with the loss of talent, that all the NIL, I don't want to call them the NIL guys, but all the guys who got paid the big bucks to be recruited there, leaving, how they play. They're ranked 20th. Notre Dame's ranked 7th. It's going to be a really fun game. Week 2, we get to see this is the biggest, I don't know what to call it, test for any of these, like, wayward team. I don't know what the word is to call what Michigan is. But we're going to see immediately, are they going to win 9 games or are they going to win 11 games? Because that's the difference between making the playoffs and not. And we get to see Texas go to the big house. And then Texas goes to Ohio State next year, which is just insane. And joining the SEC too. Week 3, a game I get to be attending, which is crazy. But it's Alabama at Wisconsin. This is like SEC going to Big Ten, vice versa is always crazy. And, a couple years ago, I think it was 21-22, Auburn and Penn State played a home. But, like, obviously an SEC school going to Auburn or going to Penn State and a Big Ten school going to Jordan-Hare. But Auburn was still, 6-win, 17-win team those years. This is Bama we're talking about. Bama going to a Big Ten school. Then week 4, I think Tennessee, Oklahoma has the weirdest ring to it being an SEC game. But this game is going to be so much fun. And I originally had it as the lone one for this, but I can't leave out the biggest game in the Big 12. This is the biggest game in the Big 12 this year. It's Utah at Oklahoma State. If I would have, never mind, I'm not going to say that yet, but yeah, I think this is just the biggest game in the Big 12, and it's in Week 4. It's early. I have to include it on this list. Week 5, Georgia at Bama. No matter what you think of Oregon, Ohio State, or any game in Week 14, this game is I don't want to say the biggest game in terms of like magnitude, playoffs, whatever, but in terms of brands and in terms of maybe not the viewership because Michigan, Ohio State, but it's in terms of everything. I think Georgia at Bama is the biggest game of the year. They haven't played in the regular season since 2019, and since they've played in the regular season, they have played in the SEC championship twice and in the national championship once. It's Georgia at Bama. Week 6, FSU at Clemson. I think it's supposed to be the other way around. Yeah, because they played at Clemson last year. I mean, the biggest game in the ACC, I think by far, it's number 1 and number 2 in the ACC in terms of odds, in terms of most people's picks. Clemson going to Florida State. Week 7, this is the big week. This week is insane. I still think rivalry week will always be the best, but in terms of a non-rivalry week game or week, this is about as good as you can. I put 2 on there. Ohio State at Oregon is the biggest game of the year. Just try to think for a second. When was the last time a very big team went to Oregon? Washington didn't last year. Washington, they played the first one in Seattle, then they played the next one in Vegas. The only time I even remember game day being there was UCLA, and that UCLA team was only ranked, 13th or whatever they were ranked. I think they were ranked 9 when they played Oregon. And they finished the season, I think, unranked and like 8-4. They were really only ranked because they upset LSU, and then they were like 4-0 to start the year. This is Ohio State, an Ohio State team that has the best roster in college football, who will most likely either be ranked number 2 or number 1 and be undefeated, versus an Oregon team who will probably be ranked number 2 or number 3, number 4 maybe, and be undefeated as well. But every single year, the Red Rivalry shootout shows out. It's every year except for that 149-0 year 2 years ago. No matter how good Texas is, no matter how good Oklahoma is, it's always a great game. You can't take it off like a list of this type. Week 8, we got Georgia at Texas. This is also back-to-back weeks with just such a big game. Georgia is probably going to be undefeated in this game unless they lose to Bama. Texas will probably be undefeated in this game as well, but you never know with the rivalry. Texas has to go. They play someone good in week 6. I forgot who it is. They got to go Oklahoma and then Georgia. This is Georgia's test. I think big test. I think along with Bama, and they're on this list a third time too. To see is Georgia just that good that they're gonna just this amazingly hard schedule. They're just gonna breeze past. Texas, I think, shows it more than Bama. Week 9, I had other options here, but I decided to go with Kansas State. I wanted more Big 12 because the Big 12 maybe not the best marquee game every week or any week, honestly, but it's going to always be that second tier of really good games. There's a lot of Big 12 games I considered, but just never ended up making this list. And this is the best Sunflower Showdown since maybe, I don't want to say ever. I don't want to say this is the biggest one ever. But if Kansas comes in here with 1 loss and Kansas State comes in here undefeated or 1 loss, and they're both ranked inside the top 15 fighting for the Big 12 championship, fighting for a playoff spot, could be amazing. Week 10, Oregon at Michigan. Michigan, I think even at this point, even if they aren't playing well, would still only be at like most a 2-loss team with like Texas and honestly not even maybe, at most a 2-loss team, but probably still only a 1-loss team because their schedule is easier in between after that Texas game, and then it gets really hard with Oregon and Ohio State. And then it's Oregon going to the Big House. Week 11, Georgia at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, in my eyes, is a top 7, top 8 team in the country. And Georgia, again, this is 3 times on this list. Georgia is going to a consensus top 10 team in the country. Week 12 is a boring week. If you have weddings, schedule it during week 12. Don't schedule it all during college football, but if you're having a fall wedding, week 12, Tennessee at Georgia. There's other things, but it's still a good rivalry. It's still usually a fun game. So, we'll see. Week 13, Alabama at Oklahoma. Again, kind of a more boring week. Didn't really know which one to choose here. But Bama going to Oklahoma. Sure. Next, week 14. It's a big week, obviously. There's infinite games to watch. Sit down on your couch. Sit down on your ass all day. On Friday, I'm pretty sure they always have a few Good Friday games. I didn't check exactly which one. But sitting on your ass all day and watching college football is the best. After Thanksgiving, people are home for a break. It's just the best. Michigan at Ohio State. Obviously. It has to be. Every single time. No matter how good, no matter how bad Michigan and Ohio State are. And, it could be interesting. There's a world, I don't think there's a world where Michigan's undefeated going in this game. Maybe there is. If Michigan does not lose a step, Michigan and Ohio State could both be undefeated in this game. But considering I don't see Oregon losing 2 games going into week 14 anyway. So Ohio State could be undefeated. Michigan could be like a 1-loss team, maybe upset Texas. And then maybe they just lose to Oregon or vice versa, or other way around, whatever. And then Texas at Texas A&M. The Lone Star Showdown is back. I was 7 years old the last time they played this game, and now it's gonna be back. This is the most excited, or the game I'm maybe most excited for, because I've never gotten to experience this rivalry yet. This is gonna be the first time I actually watch this rivalry live, and then Auburn at Alabama. No matter what, again, it's kind of like Michigan Ohio State. But I'm gonna be honest, I prefer watching the Iron Bowl, like especially last year. But usually, if the Iron Bowl is good, I prefer it to almost every other game, maybe besides the Red River rivalry. But when college football is coming, I'm excited. Thanks y'all for watching. Discord's never coming. See ya.